hate that phrase, skin in the game. I just reset it because, you know, who said it originally was Obama, but the real question is how do we make it so that everybody sees what the actual cost of government is? Because right now, there's a vast majority of people who don't see that. About 95% of the people in our country don't see what the cost of government is because it's hidden in their income taxes. It's hidden in their employment taxes. They don't notice it because their check comes to them. They see their tax refund as a bonus. It's a bonus. Look, the government sent me a couple grand, right? It's the wrong frame of mind. It's absolutely backwards. So the first thing that we need to do is make sure every American can see what the cost of their government is. Now, one of the things that I'm a proponent of is the fair tax. That puts the cost up. It lets every American see what does it cost me to buy an item and how much is the tax that my government's collecting from it. What you're going to do then is you're going to change people from spenders into savers. They're going to start saying, you know what, I don't want to pay that much tax. We've got to change the mindset. The mindset that we've lost is the civic mindset. We've lost the saver mindset. We've lost the charitable mindset. We've looked to the government to take care of everything. We've got to change that.
Yeah, the marginal rates need to be lowered. That will spur investment. The bottom rate should be low enough to catch almost everybody, not those who didn't make any. It is an income tax that we're focusing on here. But it should be 95% of those. If you're earning money, you should be contributing to the health and safety and welfare of your country. And that will give you an incentive to follow what's going on, to take an interest in where your money is headed, and it will spread the burden out more. Because as things are going right now, we're at this tipping point where the wealthy are carrying more and more of the load, and at some point they will say, heck with this. I've had friends of mine in Door County, and I think we've all seen the evidence of it, but the story goes, the guy says, okay, I'm done with this boat that I've been keeping. And many resentful folks might say, well, too bad. Who cares about that guy? Well, that boat that's there, there's 5 people that are working on it in the summertime. There are 10 people that are working on it in the wintertime. So when you tax somebody, when you raise the rates on the rich, you're raising the rates on everybody. When you tax one person, you tax all of them. We're all in this together. So you definitely have to lower the marginal rates and catch 95% of the folks. And I think that will help this economy grow.
Hi, my name is Bill Paul.
I'm not clapping for you, Bill.
Hi, my name is Bill Paul. I want to thank you for taking time to explain your views on a lot of different things. One thing that bothered me when I was back there, I heard a question from a fella in regard to the troubles in the Middle East and or the wars that we're currently fighting. And I heard a lot of lip service earlier in regard to the Constitution, but I thought it was a very good opportunity for any one of you fellows to reference that these are very unconstitutional wars and they were undeclared wars. And my question being, if you're advocates for the Constitution, there has been no reference to that being an undeclared unconstitutional war. My question would be, would you go on the record and demand that any future military action with the United States military of those natures be constitutionally declared war, and that is a congressional action to be voted upon?
Very constitutional question. Because when it comes right down to it, we expect that the president's at least going to talk with Congress and see what's going on. We expect that the branches will work together rather than just giving all that power to one person so that they can enter into a war wherever they decide. So I would go on the record to say yes, that the president needs to talk to Congress. Does he need to get their okay? That's the real constitutional question. I say yes. You know why? Because Congress controls the purse strings. And before you start spending money on a war, Congress should say yes or no. Now, does that handicap our president? Absolutely. But that's the point. That's the point of our Constitution, is to handicap each branch of government so that they have to pay attention to what the rest of the government says. If the president can't go out by himself and declare war, and if he needs this to go over to Congress and say, what do you think? Then he's getting the measure from 100 people in the Senate. He's getting the measure from 435 folks who hopefully still have a connection to their district. That's the easiest way for the president to know whether or not this nation supports a war, whether they support an action. Because Congress controls the purse strings, the president should be getting the okay from Congress.
I'm going to disagree with that. That policy would be an escalator. It would only involve us in the last resort when things have gotten so bad that we have to declare war. There are going to be times when discretion is the better part of valor, and we need to get in on a limited basis to deter a larger conflagration. There needs to be flexibility with our commander-in-chief. Now, the problem is not that the Congress has declared or not declared war, it's that we haven't had quality decisions made. But that's what this country is based on, is its people and its involvement in its government. The either-or scenario would be a very unhealthy thing for our foreign policy if the only time we committed troops is if we declared war. It sounds like it would be a limiting factor on our ability to then get our troops in harm's way, but many times, a limited involvement stops the greater war.
The big question of the day, I think, there's always a balancing act between liberty and security. And that's really the big question that this country's been dealing with now since 9/11, is the balancing act that has to take place. And I said earlier that elections matter, particularly presidential elections matter. I think all elections matter, but who has the ability to commit troops to one place or another is really a critical question. You know, I've got to take some time to think about your question, to be honest with you. I would love to throw an answer out, and I know you're kind of looking at me like, what's there to think about, because you've had an opportunity to think it through, really. But the Congress must appropriate money to support those troops. And the last thing that I want to have happen now that troops are committed is for the Congress to disappropriate funds and then not give them what they need to at least defend themselves and win. Without that funding, then they have to come home. And so I wish I had a better, I really do wish I had a better answer. But one of the commitments I've made right from the beginning is that I don't want to just be flippant about something. And I think the question you asked is worth some time for me to contemplate on. I really do. And so I thank you for asking.
I'm a senior at Knox Valley Lutheran, and I just turned 18, so I have a couple years before I retire. But I read a lot into Social Security, and I know you talked about future generations before. I'm a future generation, and I'm only 18, and I'm already worried about Social Security. And I was just wondering what you're going to do to get the ball rolling on that.
Well, I'm 47 and I'm worried about it, so I frankly don't plan on having to do that. The way the tables are running right now is it's not bankrupt today, it's near bankruptcy. The solution is so easy yet so difficult. We're going to have to tell people under 50 years old, myself included, that they're going to have to work longer. That is just part of the equation. The second part of the equation is that the tables themselves are going to have to be adjusted, not by much. All it takes with large-scale changes like this, small tweaks with the actuarial tables, and we can get it back on track. But we've got to have the will to change things, and we've got to allow those who have the power to do it to change it. Social Security is one of the biggest Ponzi schemes there is right now. We're down to 2-to-1 folks supporting it versus those in retirement, and that is obviously unsustainable. We can all figure that math out. So we have to start by facing up to the reality that this system as it is broken. And we also have to realize that retirement is a privilege and not a right. When we push back on the culture like that, that's going to be difficult because we've gotten this mindset that retirement somehow should be guaranteed by the federal government. That isn't the case. That's something that has to be voted on and handled by the Social Security Administration and how this numerical system is going to work. But as it is now, it can't work. So it has to be changed.
Mark, I agree with you. There's been a promise made, and for those of you that are in retirement years, you lived and planned your life based on a promise by your government. And so somehow we have to establish a phase out of the current Social Security system to a new system. And that will have to happen over time. It could happen in a single generation. It will probably require a fair amount of change in retirement age. In 1937, when Franklin Roosevelt signed that bill, the average life expectancy for a white female in the U.S. was 62 years. For a white male, it was 59 years. For African Americans, it was less than that. And as a result, there was never a big intention of having to pay much money out, and the tax was only 1%. And it was just for retirement. And that program, as you're aware, has been expanded, but hasn't been adjusted. The average life expectancy today is over 74 years. And so we have a whole different dynamic that's never been addressed. And I'll tell you, it's a difficult one to even talk about because as soon as someone says you have to change it, the AARP is going to spend $2 million in the district to make sure you don't get elected. But I'll tell you, where's the young lady that asked this question? She's still here. I appreciate that question. I am in this race for you because that it has to change. It will bankrupt this country if it doesn't change. I envision a shift in how that system works so that by the time you get there, you're not only responsible for your own, but we've made tax law available to help you be responsible for your own. And that the government can't take that money from you and give it to somebody else. That is, in fact, a Ponzi scheme. That's what put Bernie Madoff in prison for 150 years. Exact same thing. Math doesn't work. And so we have to change the math.